everything within the Arena Success Group Surviving to Thriving system and the online tools and everything, they're built around three core beliefs. First, life should be a passionate, fulfilling adventure. Two, there are five keys to a fulfilling, adventurous life. And then three, because the driving force of every organization is the people and the human machine they become, the five keys are the same for a person and an organization. Now, the average employee spends 40 hours or more at work or within an organization. And the life of that employee is very connected to the organization. So, by improving the organization with these five keys, the individual's life is greatly enhanced. And if you get that human machine working right, that machine will fix all the rest of the machines and systems in your organization. Okay, so that sounds great. But in the real world, this is what it really translates to, or an example of it. There's three broad ways to run an organization. And of course, the hardest way is is what I believe is the most effective way. But when I say hard, it's also by far the most rewarding. So, and once I was told by a Vietnam vet, he said, you know, the easy way is always mind. And it doesn't matter if you're walking through a jungle or walking through life, and life's pretty much a jungle. So, here we go. Um, the first way I call the kingdom. That's where there's one or maybe it's a few people at the top, and they run an organization, and everything is based on their judgment. And we'll use like idea creation, or I call them initiatives, as an example. Anybody, I guess, could come up with an idea, but if they can't get a viewing with the people that matter, and then all they have to do is really convince the people that matter. They don't actually have to have the idea thought out, and they don't have to have it planned. They just have to strike that emotional nerve, because every decision is truly emotional, with the person at the top, and the idea will get a go. Now, there's some real problems with that. Idea submission eventually gets very, very low. You do not get a lot of creativity in this system, because people very quickly find out they either don't have access to the top, or they see it as a buddy system and not a real merit, a meritocracy, as we would say, but a merit system. The quality of the idea and the quality of the ideas that actually get implemented depend entirely on the decision making skill, which a lot of times is like, it's a gut feeling, and some people are good at it and some people aren't, of the people at the top. It doesn't really depend on a thorough fleshing out of the idea, okay? And then the third thing about it is the failure rate. The failure rate is very, very high, because the whole decision is made. Now it depends on implementing it. One, it probably doesn't have that great a plan. And two, if it does, it depends on the motivation of the person at the top, or the person who created it, and that motivation will wane over time, because they'll start getting confused, and confusion, it fatigues us all right? Okay, so the second thing, that's the first way, and by far the most popular, I think. Then there's a second way, and I was guilty of this, and I still am sometimes. This is the way by nature I tend to. It's a bad idea. I call it the wild, wild west. And that is, anybody can come up with an idea, and this usually happens when the person at the top is creative and really loves to see change in ideas. So people come up with an idea, and the person says, so sure, give it a try. Again, very little planning, very little thought out. And then, because it's not thought out, you'll get lots and lots of ideas, because it looks like fun for everybody. And there's very few rejections, so everything gets implemented, but the quality is just simply not there. And it brings the entire organization into chaos, because you are constantly going forward with things and then stopping them and changing ways and things along those lines. Now, what's really interesting is a lot of times everybody in the organization loves this, because everybody gets a try at something, but then they'll all complain about there being way too much change. And yet, That's what happens. The failure rate in the wild west is out of this world. All right, most ideas are bad to start out with, but the system doesn't weed any of those out, and there's no planning and requirements, so even the good ideas usually fail. This system ends up with rooms full of ideas that are half done. All right. Then the last one, and I equate this is more like running a sports franchise or how it would work, all right, for a real team, and I mean like for the coach of the team. But this is entirely different, and maybe it's more like a military command, all right? So, anyways, yeah, let's go with the military command. So, in this system, anybody can submit an idea, but there is a very rigorous process an idea has to go through before it will even be seriously considered. It's hard. It requires that certain questions be answered every time. It requires that we look to see if it fits within the organization. It's required that there be a plan to actually complete the idea. Now, what happens in this situation is it's often seen as micromanagement, and it's the least micromanaged of the three. Okay, the idea submissions maybe that actually get brought up and for final approval is low, but lots of people can have an idea. I mean, the person working in the mailroom can come up with an idea for an entirely new product. Anything can be done, but they have to be thought out. And that is very important, because what happens then is the idea quality is very, very high. And the motivation to complete it is very, very high, because they've already done a lot of work and they see the path, and they can get others to buy in much easier because they know what they're buying into. The failure rate becomes very low, and that actually adds a ton of momentum to the organization. And just to, you know what, I'm going to tell you a story that has to fit that, which is why this is not micromanaging, why this is so free. I once read about a pilot, and he just gets his pilot's license, and he's flying his Cessna, maybe his third solo flight. And he sees a cloud up there, and he was told never, ever, 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 ever fly into a cloud. But you know what? It's a little cloud. It looks kind of fun. He flies into the cloud. Well, a strange thing happens. As he thinks he's about to emerge on the other side, which took much longer than he expected, he noticed that his pencil is on the ceiling, and that seems just very odd. And then he emerges from the cloud, and he realizes he is upside down, and it happens so slowly that he did not even feel the transfer of his weight from the seat to the seat belt. But there he was, upside down, with no idea how to right the plane. Now, he was lucky enough, he got hold of somebody at the tower, and this was a long, long time ago, and they righted the plane, and he was able to land it, and he was very shook up. He decided he's got to learn to fly by instrument. And so at that time, that meant binders full of rules. And he had to go know what the rules were for all the different instruments that could be on his panel for multiple different types of planes. And it took a long time. And we all think rules constrict us, but rules do not constrict us. Because when he knew the rules, then he could fly almost any time of day or night. He could fly almost any place. He could fly in much different types of weather. He did not have to see the ground to be able to get somewhere. His landings were much safer. He was free to do things he could not do until he knew and learned to abide by the rules. That is what this system is built on. In every way, it may be rigorous for someone. They may have, it's not designed to just be easy. The easy way is mind, okay? But it is designed so that Things aren't decided by a buddy system. Things don't depend on the good gut instincts of somebody who's been at the top a long time. It's designed so a business can run with much less supervision as a whole because everyone knows how the processes work, and the processes are hard enough and meaningful enough that it keeps the business focused on what it really is with a very high success rate. And that is actually the really big difference at Arena Success Group. You can set your team free to be incredibly creative. They just have to be willing to follow the process so that they have a high likelihood of success. Thank you.